Let's talk herd.
And when we think about, most people, I'm going to say, let's say 95%, right, of people who want anything to do with horses want to ride them. That, I would say at the moment is probably, I might be wrong, but 95%, let's say, okay? 25% of people at the moment that are looking for something else to do with horses. And when we look at the history of our relationship with riding, it's not a good one. It's not a,
No.
it's all about war, isn't it? Or competition. It's a very martial expression of energy. It's a very martial energy. It's about domination. It's about getting your will, getting what you want, having your desires fulfilled, having a good time, proving yourself over everybody else. It's all about that. And so we don't have a lot of stories from our history of riding where it has been different. There must be, when sometimes, sometimes if I'm doing a workshop or a retreat, I will do a journey where we imagine that we are the first person ever to sit on the back of a horse, and we'll go through that. But we don't have a lot of record of it. We only have, lots of stories of battle and winning and and this very martial expression. That is changing, but in our history there is not a lot. And as I say, I am questioning. This picture on the wall here is my mare Lakota, and she in the last couple of weeks, I don't ride her very often, and she's ridden bitless. She's never had a bit in her mouth. I've never shouted at her. She's never had any stuff like that happen. I rarely ride her because I feel that what she's saying to me is, I love and respect the relationship that we have. And if you really want this, I will do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an obligation.
And then recently, in the last couple of weeks, I've had an injured foot. My foot has been injured and I can't walk very far. And so when I'm taking out my autistic clients, sometimes I have to walk with them. I can't. So I've been coming to her with that. And I've been saying, I can't walk. This has to happen because we need to earn money in order to keep us and for me to be able to feed you and maintain the land that you're on. Could you carry me while I go out with this autistic child? And that has made it so different because I have a real need.
Wow.
I have to do this work with this boy because that's what's bringing the money in that keeps us all going. And I can't walk. And she carries me. And she does it usually if I ride a motor, she's very you can see from that she's like that in that picture. She's very, she has her own, she's very competitive, she's very fiery. She wants to talk about everything, she wants to discuss things. If I say we're going to go left, she'll say, really? Why are we going left? And I have to absolutely know why I'm doing this, anything I'm doing with her. And she can be quite volatile. If I get it wrong, she can be quite dramatic and volatile in her responses to me. But since I've gone to her and said, please carry me because I can't walk, she's been absolutely quiet, contained, acquiescent, because there's a real need. And so that's.
Do you think that's because you have do you think it's because you've allowed yourself because you could say that the need itself doesn't really matter. It's how we feel about it. Like, if we feel that it's reasonable or it's acceptable or it's okay, that we just enjoy riding. Is there something wrong with that? I mean, maybe it's because we feel guilty and the horses kind of sense that, because we're not allowing ourselves just to have. I mean, I get it that it can't just be one way and this, kind of selfish desire. But then in a sense, it all fits in. Like, I think if you really allow yourself to just connect with what feels good, then you're not going to hurt others, because what feels good for you is good for everyone. That's that feels to me like it's almost like a sort of spiritual belief. So I'm just kind of putting it out there. I'm not saying it's like very, true, but maybe because you allowed,
Yeah.
I mean, but I get it. It's totally like what I really want to sort of say, because what you said was really fascinating about the, misinterpreting what they're saying. And I think for me, the way to kind of get to the root, get closer to truth in that, has been to go back, to take it out of the intellectual mind. Like, we put it into thought, so we think she's saying that because she means that. But if you take it back to just the root vibration, like the feelings, how you feel. And it doesn't always translate, because we live in our world is like, the physical world is manifestations of everything. So it's like, with the tent and everything, I don't know how that would have, but maybe if he'd been able to just tune in on that level, not thinking, it would kind of unfold more. And that's kind of like, you take it, you're not thinking, you're not trying to think and say logically add anything up. You're just feeling. And in a way, that for me is really part of like, you've got to just take time to feel how you feel and how things feel and how, what feels good. And it's really, because one time I was with a mare who she's very dreamy and sensitive and kind of on another. She's an amazing spiritual horse, but she's not really, that was before anyway, when I was sort of riding, but I don't really do that anymore. So, but at that time, I just felt this one day when I was with her, she just feels like her back she wants to be sat on. And it was such a strange feeling. It wasn't a thought at all. And it wasn't like a rational figuring out or anything. It was if I had been logical about it, it just wouldn't happen, because she's not like that. I thought, well, I'll just go with it, because it feels like she wants her back to stretch and be massaged. And so I did get on her, and she was completely calm and lovely. And we just worked around for a little bit, not for very long. And it was quite a revelation, because it was just pure feeling. It was the sense of it, and that she wanted that, and she did enjoy it. And to be honest, I haven't actually sat on her since. That was years ago. But it was just being in that, and that, I just feel that's the most, for me at the moment, that's the most trustworthy, the most reliable connection, is just staying out of
I think
thought
that's
with
very
it.
true. I
mean, I
the
think
thing
some
about
people
feel into your body, what feels good. Actually, I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday, actually, about how I make decisions, at the moment, is does it feel good in my body or not? It was actually about what the conversation was about yesterday, was about staying in touch with somebody, staying in connection with somebody that maybe you've had a difficult time with. Does it feel good in my body to keep that connection or to not have that connection? So for you, with that horse,
Yeah. So
it was a
powerful.
goodness, the feeling of good in your body to do it. You felt everything
Yeah.
was in alignment.
Yeah.
Your ego wasn't in it. You weren't attached to the outcome. You weren't trying to prove anything to
Yeah.
anybody. And she offered it. It felt good in your body to do.
Yeah. And also, yeah. And I think I would say it's because of the craniosacral work that you kind of develop this. It's like I suppose it's a skill, and I think everyone has it because you do it with yourself, but you can sense beyond yourself and like you go into someone else's, like their kind of nervous system, I suppose, is what you're using. You're kind of going through the nerves. So it's the same as you feel yourself, but you can tune in to others. And I think that's how I could tell she would feel that because it was the feeling in her back as well. So it's like it does go beyond the boundary of the physical boundary, but it's very distinct from thinking, like, rational thought.
Yeah. No, I think
and I think that's going to be the way that.
I mean, who knows? I mean, that sounds very much like how it might have been, at the beginning of things. Somebody had, we lived in tribal communities. Horses were around us. Maybe one day it felt good to somebody. They'd made a bond. They'd made a connection with a particular horse. That horse comes forward. It feels good. So you do it, and then the ego gets involved, and it becomes different. Yeah,
it's this whole evolution of, because I do think that we all have, because I think horses have that still very powerful in themselves, that ability to sense and, to sense within, because sometimes I've noticed that one horse seems to be able to feel what another one is feeling.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's a real like communal. Yeah. And I think we've got that innately. We've just kind of let it kind of get overtaken by our intellectual mind and our thinking. And I think that's what people love so much about going back to about horses, because they can bring you back to that. That
connection with spirit.
Yeah. So what are you doing now? Like, what's your latest kind of project, would you say?
Well, I am. There's a few things going on. I've written a book that I'm wanting to. I wrote it back in 2000 and whenever it was, 16 or 17, and I'm very
So it sounds amazing.
Progress, so I'm wanting to put that out. There's a training program that I'm writing, which is going to be called something like Equine Centered Personal and Spiritual Development. I'm just in the beginning of pulling those strands together, and on the practical level, we are strengthening and developing a few modalities such as the horse dance. We myself and a friend of mine have, for 7 or 8 years now, offered horse dance workshops, and they're really becoming, growing and becoming more popular and continuing.
So what is that? How does that work? That sounds amazing.
So how that works is, if you came to a horse dance, you would come with a piece of music that you have a particular relationship with at the moment, and it's a 6-day retreat, 5 or 6-day retreat, and you would come, and I co-facilitate it with a 5 rhythms dance instructor, and so each day begins with a movement session through the 5 rhythms. And then we go out to the horses.
So you don't have to have a previous, do you have to be experienced in dancing?
No, and you don't have to be experienced with horses either. It comes together in the time. And
wow.
So over the 5 days, I teach you some horsemanship skills, how you might want to move a horse. When you enter the dance space with your horse on the 3rd day, it might be that you want to move your horse.
Yeah.
So I give you some skills that you might want to use in the doing of that. And it's a very ceremonial, ritual thing, and each horse dance has a theme.
Yeah.
So we've got one coming up actually, and the theme is, it's called The Dance of Shadows and Light. And the theme is the shadow, the human shadow.
Right.
And what will happen over the course of that 5 days in their engagement with the horses and expressing through the music, you will have an encounter with your shadow, And last year we did 2 horse dances. One was The Gift in the Wound, and the other was The Alchemy of Grief.
Right.
And it's a process, so that you come into it with a question, or with an issue that you're working with. It culminates in the actual dance with the horse in the dance space, and then you leave with some, I'm going to use that word, evolution, or some
resolution,
or change in relationship with whatever the issue is. Yeah.
And how do the horses, are the horses proactive?
Yes.
What do they bring?
The horses are very engaged. So the first time the participant meets the horses is on the 2nd day, and we take them out to the herd, and they do a meet the herd exercise, So we've put them in a very open state in their bodies, a very receptive, what am I hearing state, and we see which horse wants to step forward for that person, and we are observing, witnessing the exchange, so that I can affirm whether that's an accurate thing or is it a projection on the part of the person. And then they'll build a relationship with that horse, and that's who they will take into the dance space to have their dance. And it's very beautiful. It's very ceremonial. So we spend time making a costume, and we decorate the horse, and it's a very lovely. So that's ongoing, and that's developing, and I'd like to carry that forward.
Yeah.
And then the other big theme, the other big sort of offering that comes out of HeartShore at the moment is something called the Equine Assisted Soul Experience, and that is combined with the work of a lady called Flo Magdalena in the States, who wrote a book called I Remember Union.
Right.
And it's based around a process called soul recognition. And so that's a journey. That's an altered state kind of journey that happens. Again, this is a longer a retreat, so 7 days, and the participants are prepared for that journey. And again, the horses will step forward to participate in that. Yes. Yeah, that's a very free kind of, the first time we ever did this work with our horses, 47 people came, 47. And I had at the time I had I don't know, maybe 15 horses in a herd, and I decided that it was going to be too
Yeah.
much to hold 47 people and 15 horses. So
Yeah.
I
That's
selected
amazing. Yeah.
I don't know, sort of 8 horses, or they came into selection, and we just
Yeah.
had, it was a very free thing. So people were in the herd, and the horses were very spontaneously, there were no equipment was being used, and it was very,
Yeah. Yeah.
very freely expressed. And
Wow.
I don't know, that
That's
was maybe 10
amazing.
years ago.
So,
Since then we have developed it, and uh, it is,
that sounds really
it's
interesting.
it's it's another very beautiful.
So it's like soul connections.
Yes, connecting through the soul.
Yeah.
So human to human, we will do a variety of soul exercises first, before we go out and
Yeah.
involve the horses. But of course, they are always in soul, so they
Right.
you know they're
Yeah. They're already
with
waiting.
that.
Wow. That's amazing. It sounds really like
It
inspiring
is.
work.
It's lovely work. I feel very, privileged to have the opportunity to do that. You know.
Yeah. And are you still working with the people from
Yeah,
prison?
that's quite seasonal in a way. The program. It says there are certain
Right.
times of year when just because of the way that the thing is structured, that we will visit the prisons, and we're in a quiet phase at the moment with that.
Yeah.
And the charity that we do that work with is called Key for Life, and the beauty
Yeah.
of the program they offer is that when the individuals come out of prison, they're offered a mentorship program, and
Yeah.
there's a large body actually of mentors who from business and uh, successful elements of society, who step forward to mentor the
Yeah.
individuals that come out, and the
Yeah.
horses form part of that program as well. So they might come to us then to work with the horses.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty, I think, of the Key for Life
Yeah.
program, is that it provides a lot of support to the individuals who are coming back into society after a time out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's quite a hard thing that to do,
Oh
really.
yeah, yeah. It's a very
Yeah.
again, like, enormously
Oh,
rewarding and very challenging thing to do. I mean, I
yeah.
do not enjoy
Yeah.
transporting horses. I do not enjoy loading horses into
No.
trailers or lorries. I,
No, me
I
neither.
really do not like that. And but for the purposes of this program, I have done quite a lot of that. So into the cities, into the
Wow.
centre of London,
Yeah.
into Belmarsh, and into Wormwood Scrubs, in the very, like,
Yeah, yeah. I never kind of
city,
added that up that you had to. Yeah, I just kind of thought they would come to you. But yeah, that's
and
true. Wow. And how do the horses respond to
amazingly
that?
well.
Like, how do they?
There are two individuals who seem
Wow.
to really, one in particular, Harry, his name is. He seems to be really okay with the whole prison thing. And the first time
Wow.
we took him
Yeah. The
The
vibe.
first time we took him to Belmarsh, that's a 4-day program, and the horses are in the prisons for 2 of those
Right.
days. So the deal is you drive them into the middle of the
Wow.
city, you find somewhere to keep them in the middle of the city for 4 days, and then for 2 of those days
Right.
you
Yeah.
reload them on the trailer, drive them into the prison, and you can imagine, it's just all it's concrete. There's not a blade of grass in sight. There's barbed wire everywhere. You know, no space.
Yeah.
All like so counter instinctive to what a horse is by nature.
Yeah.
And yet here we are asking the horse to
And
do
the
this,
energy as well.
and we talk about healing,
Yeah.
and there's a thing, isn't there, in cranial osteopathy. I have a good friend, a very good friend, who's a very good cranial osteopath and animal communicator, and she described to me once that, and you can tell me if this is, I won't get this right because I'm not very good with stuff like that, but when the energy is flowing, there comes a point when you can just let it do its thing. It's like you've initiated it, and you can just kind of be for I don't know, a few minutes while it does its thing. And I feel like that about
it's
this
processing.
work. Like I can take the horses into the prisons, and I can have the young men come out and encounter horses, and really that's it. I've initiated that. We've initiated it, and then I can just kind of let it happen. Really, it doesn't really matter what I do.
Yeah.
With the horses.
Yeah, that really makes sense.
And it's such an incredible thing,
because it's almost like,
it's such an incredible thing.
No, I know. Yeah.
These young men have been isolated from society, isolated from the world, isolated from nature. Many of them won't have seen an animal for several years, perhaps. And then suddenly they're in the presence of a large animal, and often that's enough.
Yeah.
Often we just that does it. That creates the shift, and then we explore that in various different exercises within that. And I can't remember which prison it was. I think it was. I'm not supposed to be mentioning prisons, by the way, by name.
Oh,
okay. So there was a prison we went to in London, and the governor of the prison allowed the horses onto their artificial grass football pitch. So that's where we were.
Oh wow! Oh no!
Yeah. The reason we went into this is because the horse Harry, who's a Dales pony, he loves it in there. He loves it, and I couldn't load him to bring him home. He wanted to stay there, so I was
he wanted to stay. Oh my god!
Yeah,
that's amazing.
That was a very
It's almost like they feel like they feel like they would be a kind of grounding force. Like they'd just be able to take all that energy and just just kind of reconnect it into source.
And it's just about,
and
it's about recreating a balance, isn't it, within the individual, essentially, because these young people have, because of their circumstances and their early wounding, have made decisions that have taken them down not very helpful pathways. So what we're doing is naming that for them, and in the horse's acceptance of the individual. That's the key piece of medicine, I think. It's the horse's
Yeah.
Unjudgmental acceptance of whoever is standing before them.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry about the
Yeah. And they just no, it's okay. he's excited. It's quite a nice musical note. So just say a little bit more about your book.
About my
maybe before we finish.
what?
Your book. It's called The Empowered Herd, is it?
Yes, it's called The Empowered Herd, The Role of Horses in Therapeutic Journeys. And I started writing it, as I say, I think it was 2016, 17. And it was going to be, what it was going to be in its conception was a sort of manual or handbook for how you manage horses in therapeutic journeys. But actually what it became was a sort of account of my life's journey through my experiences and life and the universe and horses and how it has led to this moment. So it's a book that describes, as I say, my journey with horses, and also other people that I've met and that have come to be with the horses. And there are some very practical chapters in there about managing a natural herd and what is a natural herd and what does that even mean, and what things contribute to a horse's feeling of empowerment, and what things detract from that. And again, no judgment.
It sounds great.
Everybody is on their own path out there.
Yeah. No, I love the way it's kind of about the herd, because I feel like that's really important in terms of working with horses as as a therapy, that they're giving us that. It does feel like they need to be, like you say, in their best self and in their most balanced environment. And also just the herd itself has a really strong communal energy that just, can't happen when they're living separately.
No, the herd is an organism in its own right, and it has a heart and it has a soul.
Yeah.
And it's a thing, it's a being. And, going out into the energy of a herd of horses is a very powerful, heart-opening, transformative experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. And I guess that for people, I think we've kind of gone from tribal, like our own herd, and we've become more individualized because we wanted to do that. We wanted to become more empowered individually, and then maybe we're going to go back into more of a human herd. I don't know what will happen.
Yeah, it's
quite interesting, the parallel.
And we are a herd. I am a herd. Because within me there are so many different aspects of self, and I am managing that.
Yeah.
And that's a big enough job.
Yeah, it's so true. I know, it's so true. Yeah. Well, so did you find a publisher for the book?
I haven't yet. What I'm exploring at the moment is
what's happening with
what happened in the journey of the book is I wrote it. I wrote it really. I didn't have a kind of. The reason I wrote it was because I was tired of explaining myself to people. I was tired of constantly explaining myself to people.
Like a
Here's what I'm going to
reference.
do. I'm going to put it in a book, and then, you know, people can read it or not, and they can like it or not, and there it is. And that's why I did it. And then I found an editor who was this amazing woman she was American, and she was part of the Soul Support Systems organization that I do the work with, that was founded by Flo Magdalena. And she was this amazing woman, and she came to stay with me for a month. I think it was a month. And she sat here, actually, where I'm sitting now, in this spot, and we would have conversations, and she very intuitively tuned into the spirit of the book, and she would make suggestions. She was an editor. That's what I'm saying. She was the editor, and we went through 2 editing processes with it. And then just when it was ready was when lockdown happened, and she actually passed away because of COVID. And then everything stopped for a while. Because it stopped. You know, it's been on a pause thing. But what's happening at the moment is I'm exploring the possibility of publishing it as an ebook, and I've got somebody looking at that for me. And I don't know a lot about that, but apparently it is quite a good way of bringing your work into the world. And so we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see with that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it sounds like it's really, a big contribution to the horse world, for sure.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, it's been really nice talking to you.
Lovely. I'm quite inspired by some of the things you've said. I think this today. I will be reflecting a bit more on certain things. Yeah.